Alright, everyone, hello and welcome back to Watching Walford. It's episode 2! Whee!
Whee! 2 episodes in!
That's a whole 2 weeks of commitment. That's more than I can handle. Watching Walford is the Eastenders podcast, so we review the entire previous week of Eastenders. And like normal, we say, welcome back to Watching Walford, the channel that's more than just a podcast, as we aim to retell some stories, go on some story arcs, and maybe even some other soaps at some point. And this podcast is audio only, but we do intend on actually using proper footage for some of the project. I'm your host Ash, and I'm joined by Piggy. How's it going, Piggy?
Hello.
How has your week been?
It has been fun. I've seen all my favourites on EastEnders this week, so I was enjoying that. Not the acting so much. The acting's been terrible.
I mean, it is a soap. Though, I mean, at some point, I'm sure there'll be a discussion point on acting in soaps, but it's kind of, my vague take is, some people are just naturally supposed to be wooden, and if the actors are wooden as well, I'm fine with that. Some people are just the most boring, straight-laced people you'll ever know. Those kinds of people make me laugh, like Steve Black.
Yeah. Who is the Steve Blackman of EastEnders? Got you thinking now?
Yeah, that's a big. Who was the most boring bastard of the week?
I know my answer, and I will say my answer at the end of the show.
And with all the lovely preamble aside, you didn't ask me how I was doing.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
How is your dog? That's what I care more about.
Joey is doing wonderfully. But yeah, we're going to be reviewing week 2 of 2023. We're going to cover all the episodes from the 9th of the 1st, 2023, all the way to the 12th. I don't know if I just don't remember the EastEnders schedule, but is it always just Monday to Thursday?
I think it used to be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah, I thought that was what it was, but maybe they've changed it? Who knows? maybe I should figure it out. I'm not ready for that fucking explosion of that explosive scene where Ricky and Jack are just mortified that there's now a kid.
That will happen. I assume it will be either left till the summer or till Christmas.
I don't know when that'll be. I feel like it has to come fairly soon, because there's no way the slate has managed to go through the whole pregnancy without announcing who the dad is.
They'll have to at some point. I just can't wait for the scene where Martin punches Jack.
Oh, it's happening. They will scream at each other. But yeah, today is the day that Martin Fowler finds out that Lily is pregnant. And to Lily, she does not want that to happen.
No, she does not. We all know Martin Fowler when he gets mad.
He is a very defensive dad. He will protect whoever he feels he needs to, and he will scream. I'm pretty sure I go into it a bit later, but yeah, it is. You would not want to be the person on the other side of it. Sharon and Zach are chit-chatting in the house before Zach gets a call asking to confirm the job. This is the job where he's going to go over. He's going to go on a cruise ship, and he's going to be like the chef, and says he's interested, but he needs to ask someone first. And Whitney and Chelsea are talking about Zach, the baby, and her previous times being pregnant. And see, now I've led this into a little bit where I'm going to go through some of Whitney's previous times of being pregnant, because Whitney's been around a while, and she usually has a terrible taste in men. But does that mean she's been pregnant a lot? Piggy, if you had to have a guess, how many times do you reckon Whitney's tried to have a baby?
4?
2.
2.
So despite, Whitney's got a fairly bad reputation with men, but she's only really been pregnant, or either been pregnant or tried to get pregnant twice. So, as I wrote, in her time on the show, she's only been pregnant once and was trying to conceive a baby in another relationship. The first time she was pregnant, it was mid-July 2016 when she was with Lee Carter. So yeah, Mick's son. Who have you seen Mick's son? Has he been about? I don't think he's been about for a while.
I don't think so. Did the baby go through, or did she?
Yeah, this leads into it because their relationship was pretty rocky because the whole time, essentially, Lee got discharged from the army, and this led him not really knowing what to do. So he kind of slowly crept into a big depression. But the funny part about this is because Whitney's a bit of she's a cheesy bastard. Whitney put a bun in the oven, trying to hope that Lee would figure out what that actually meant. So, she symbolically put a bun in the oven, hoping Lee would go, "Oh shit, she's pregnant." Yeah, Lee didn't catch this, and unfortunately, it resulted in a miscarriage. I think because Lee gave Whitney chlamydia, and chlamydia can kind of mess with pregnancy. And the other time Whitney was yearning for a child was when she was with Callum, who's now with Ben. Because in that year before, when they were nearly gonna get married, before Ben realized Callum was gay. They were trying for a baby, kind of. But it was once again in the Whitney kind of way, where Whitney doesn't really know how to communicate with a partner. Probably because of her abusive past of men. So they just kind of assumed that they didn't want a baby, and then they did. And Callum was never really the most forthcoming about what he wanted because he's gay. Their quest for a baby ended as Callum essentially went, "Maybe we should get a flat rather than a baby." Good move. And that was Whitney Dean's pregnancy past.
So wait, who had the most pregnancies on EastEnders?
God, who knows? Hopefully someone figures that out. If I had to guess, it would probably be like Carol Jackson, like Bianca's mum, maybe, because she had a bunch of kids, or Bianca had a bunch of kids. Who knows? The family trees in EastEnders are absolutely scuffed as shit. So, Stacey rounds up the Slaters to tell them all about Lily's pregnancy, and we kind of see how everybody's gonna handle it. Freddie's just kind of like, "What?" Harvey's like, "Oh shit." Eva's like, "Yeah, we'll get through it." And Alfie is just kind of like, "Oh Christ." It's fun to see, and Martin didn't get there in time. And otherwise, Kat is struggling after having shot Keeble, and Tommy's struggling a lot as well. This leads to Alfie being like, "Phil, this is all your fault, you dick. Why did you do that to him?" He gets sent away because they're all trying to process the trauma that they've just been through. The father of the baby, Ricky Jr., is absolutely no idea, and he is just a child. Why? Because the biggest issue he has is he wants Daddy Jack to come see his hockey game. And Martin is trying to sell bananas to Ricky. And this is my line of the week. Because Martin's like, "Hey Ricky, do you want some bananas?" And he says, "No, when I have bananas, it spins my stomach." And then he has to spend hours blaming it on the sewers. Ricky, dirty boy, sort your bowels out, man. What's wrong with you?
I'll get into my line. I'll get into the two of my lines of the week later on.
But what? It took me a second to go, "Wait, hold on." Sharon informs Martin that the police are waiting for him at the house. And as this happens, like I said before, Stacey and Lily say that she's pregnant. But Martin's not there. And guess who Martin finds in his home? The social worker and the detective. And just to entice it a bit more, as we said, Martin is a very protective dad and husband.
I'm looking forward to that. That's the week of EastEnders I'm looking forward to. Come on, Martin. It should be a Valentine's Day reveal,
Oh, I feel like something's going to go bust on Valentine's Day. Like if some, yeah.
Do you know what I was going to say? It should be like Stan. Dear Martin, I wrote you, but you still ain't calling. Fuck it, man. What's up? How's your daughter? I'm going to have a kid once. Do you know what I'm going to call her? I'm going to call her Martin. I hope you get this, man. I left my pager. I left my phone number. Sometimes I write addresses too sloppy. But fucking Dan, what's up? I hope
Now-
you get this. Your biggest fan, Ricky Jr. My tea's gone cold, I don't know why. I
Oh,
got a
that's a
12-year-old
banger.
pregnant.
That's fucking good shit. Good shit.
He's just sitting there. He has the blonde. He dyed his hair blonde. He's just.
One thing you mentioned as well, I said great acting from James Bay, because he sells the face of like, oh shit, she's pregnant. So wait, what the fuck? She's pregnant. What the fuck are we gonna do? Like, he just sells this all perfectly in the span of about 3 seconds. He's just kind of
Yeah,
like, oh god. It changes everything, doesn't it?
it does. When your 12-year-old, or famously, our 12-year-old daughter got pregnant.
Cut to Zach, who he decides to take the job once again because Whitney doesn't know how to communicate to anyone. Because Whitney goes, well, yeah, well, if you want to do it, and Zach's like, yeah. It's like, yep. Well, if you don't say you don't want him to take the job, he's not gonna not take the job. Come on. And Martin bangs down the slated door and just kind of slightly breaks down, like, in the room with Stacy, kind of describing the experience about being questioned by the police, because they're questioning him like he's possibly abused her.
Yeah, that would be horrible, wouldn't it? That like your father of a child who's now pregnant, being accused of on your child.
Yeah, like it's like, you can understand why you would take such like a big toll, because Martin's a good dad. He does all he can, and now he's being asked if he's done anything dodgy. That's just not what you want, is it? And then he asks if she knew at the hospital, which she obviously did, which kind of sets him over the edge. But, Lily appears, so he settles down a little bit. I'd say it was quite sentimental, where Stacy and Martin just kind of stand there, just like, how do we let this happen? Like, fuck, this is not how this was supposed to go. Ricky and Phil have a chat in the cafe about Tommy, and he's trying his best to process like how to help Tommy through his trauma, because Tommy's he's not really had to deal with much. He's a fairly naive kid, and he's fairly sheltered. So being kidnapped and being held at gunpoint and seeing someone get shot, obviously he's done a bit of a number on him. I think one thing I was fun, it was nice to see Ricky and Phil actually interact, and like Ricky actually got a bit more respect this time. Whenever Ricky and Phil have interacted in the past, Ricky's always been that dickhead who hangs out with my sister. But now he was actually like on the same level, like, as Phil, which was cool. Martin and Stacy are talking again, and Martin says she's not going to keep it. Martin's been watching us.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, because she's like, she's not going to keep it, right?
Yeah, she probably is. Well, she can't even decide what she wants for breakfast, so.
Yeah, everybody kind of reels from going, shit, she's going to have a baby. Martin and Stacy are left baffled, but Jean and Harvey kind of go, all right, let's just treat like she's 12 years old. And she's like, and Lily's pretty happy with that, so. Another argument, more baby drama as well. Zach corrects Chelsea in the club, as Chelsea thinks that Zach is just trying to like get rid of the responsibility of being a dad. But Zach actually goes, no, I'm trying to provide for him. But alternatively, she says, you don't need to leave the country to do that, though. Which, yeah, it's a fair point. Can't really argue against that, can you? Phil opens up to Tommy about Phil's dad, Eric. And he mentions all the beatings and the embarrassment and how scared that he'd been. And he tries to make Tommy feel that he's not alone. And Tommy just kind of replies, I don't want to disappoint you. And they share a hug. And it's honestly quite sentimental and quite wholesome. Because Phil fluctuates as to whether he actually gives a shit or not. But no, it's nice to see. It's good to see Phil actually being emotional. Which he's probably done more in the last week than he has in the last 5 years. Kat sees us and interrupts their heart-to-heart. But, it's still nice. The police and the social workers are here to ask Freddie and Alfie questions about Lily. Freddy starts to freak out over their questioning and struggles to deal with the question.
Oh, sorry. One of my lines of the week is Alfie Moon when Ricky, what the fuck is his name? Freddy's coming down the stairs. Where he doesn't physically say it, but he just points to his belly and goes, "The coppers are here," but he just points to his belly. That's one of my lines of the week. I have 3 lines of the week, so that's one of them.
But yeah, Freddy lets it slip that Stacy knows who the dad is, and yeah. Meanwhile, Martin and Stacy burst in the house, arguing about who the baby's dad is, and the police are like, "Oi, what's up here?" The other final bit before the final scene is Zach opts out of the job, decides to stay closer to the square, but he sees a familiar face across the street and he looks a bit sheepish. He sees that, maybe he's not someone he wants to run into. And the final moment, Stacy is faced with a decision by the social services. She either has to tell them who the father is, or Lily may be removed from the house. Alright, episode 2 kicks off as Martin and Zach are they both had a pretty rough time lately. Zach's been rocked by a sudden I wrote mate in inverted commas showing up, and Martin by the recent baby news. And Whitney appears and they go off for a cafe date, but Zach's clearly been stalking the guy he saw on the street the other day. Stacy and Jean have more aggro over Lily, and Stacy is deciding, I'm not going to tell the police who it is. And it makes everything worse. Like, I understand that she wants to do right by her daughter and she doesn't want her to not speak to her, but you're genuinely making it 10 times worse, and it's really frustrating. Just tell them who the fucking dad is, please. Or are you excited? Are you waiting for that explosion?
I'm waiting for that explosion of where I hope they recreate the Lily thing where Kat in 18 years time.
Yeah.
When she goes, "You're not my mother." Yes, I am. I want that recreated so much, and I'm gonna hold on for about 18 years.
Back in 18 years' time, we'll be like, "Yep, back in 2023, we said this was gonna happen."
What are you, Triple H?
I don't know. I've got smoker's voice. I don't smoke, but the years will be rough. Yeah, I think it's gonna be explosive when it happens, but at least let Martin know. Come on.
No, Martin can't know because he'll just go over to Jack and be like, "Your fucking son battered my daughter, knocked her up."
Yeah, it will be big and explosive, but it is still very frustrating to see it happen slowly, though.
Yeah. Hope it happens by Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it'll get revealed pretty soon. And there's trouble with the Browning kids as they're arguing again, and it kind of this argument helps us fully realize that Ricky Jr. is the dad, because you can even see in the dynamic between Ricky Jr., Jack, and Amy, Ricky's the one who's the odd one out and is just isn't really cared about as much. Is there any doubt that Ricky's the dad?
No.
Yeah, and it's kind of setting up the scenes for this week as Denise. She's having a fair amount of issues with Jack at this point because Jack's a bit full on with literally everything else but her. And meanwhile, Zach is pitching to Ravi in the gym before Sharon has to interview a personal trainer. And who shows up? Well, you won't know who this is, but this is fucking Fabrizio Santino. Or, as Soap fans will know him, it's fucking Ziggy Roscoe from Hollyoaks. Essentially, who he played in Hollyoaks, he was one of the Roscoe clan. He was a mechanic. He wasn't the smartest, but he was a bit of a ladies' man. But he still had a heart of gold, and also just What a man. What a man he is. Zach is very sheepish and doesn't really know what to do. You can tell that there's a bit of history there, and they don't really know how to deal with it. And after this, we get a nice little Sookie and Eve scene where Eve's like, what do you want? And Sookie's like, I would have come and seen you, you know? And it's like, come on, keep building it, lads. Keep building it. Give us all. Give us it all. Because I thought it was going to come out at Christmas. Like, I thought that Nish and Sookie weren't going to last long, but who knows, honestly. I am pretty, like I said, I'm pretty unsure right now, and that's a part of the fun, because nobody really wants it to be stupidly predictable. And Lola returns to work and is greeted back with open arms. She's going to give Denise a makeover, and they're hoping that this means she and Jack can rekindle the flame. And Zach is also pitching to Ravi, but he's very distracted by Brett is who he's called, and is all over the place. Not that Brett's there, it's just that Zach's in his head. And as well as this, Lily reveals to the socials that it is a boy from school, and finally they don't need to start questioning everybody about whether she was abused or not, because it's now finally been cleared up. It's time for potential affair watch, because Denise and Ravi meet properly for the first time, and Ravi is flirting like a bastard. Ravi has decided he's a big fan of Denise, and Denise is already feeling pretty discarded by Jack, so affair watch, anyone?
Will it happen?
Yeah, I see it happening. I think there's a good chance. Zach tries to jeopardize Brett's chances at the gym by saying he was on the juice, brother. Brett was on steroids, and Sharon kind of realizes that, yeah, there is some history there. I was not expecting steroids to be brought into this, I'll be honest.
Yes, it's steroids.
When they announced that there was going to be a HIV story, I just assumed that Zach would have, like, because he slept around a lot, I assumed he would have just caught it off someone. But no, it's a needle sharing type of HIV. I'd say it's pretty interesting to have. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm also glad that they're doing it to a straight person as well.
And not like Callum or Ben.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because basically, I mean, like I said, I'm currently watching through Hollyoaks 2015 because that's as far back as they have. And in Hollyoaks 2015, they did a story where one of like the main favorite boys is a guy called Steve, who is a gay man. He used to be uncertain, does have like 3 kids, but you know, every gay man in Hollyoaks has a kid somehow. But yeah, they went through him getting HIV just because he got drunk and like bunked off with a guy, and the guy gave him HIV. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to think that this is a storyline due to sharing steroid needles. So Lily drops a bombshell that she wants to keep the baby, or not. She storms off again because, you know, everybody is trying to make a sacrifice for her, but I do agree they're not really giving her a chance to make her mind up. So, you know, you can understand why she's upset, even if it feels a bit unreasonable with everything going on. And yeah, like I said, despite her age, if she wants to have the baby, it's her choice.
It is.
Denise and Jack finally get some time to themselves, but one of Jack's tenants ring up and say they have a leak, so Jack goes, well, sorry, I'm off, bye. And Denise is like, well, what? So I got all glammed up for this. Yeah, and finally, the key point is Brett drops the bomb that he is HIV positive and that he needs to get tested because they shared needles. Pretty big deal. And whilst I was writing this up, I just thought it would be interesting to note that, well, hold on. This is the Duff moment that he probably has HIV and he needs to get checked. But I wanted to essentially express a bit more. So Martin, back in the day when he was younger, his brother Mark also contracted HIV. But this was in the 90s. So attitudes towards HIV and AIDS were much worse at the time. Like everybody's like, don't you touch my glasses, don't you drink from the same drinks as everybody else. There was a lot of discrimination towards people with HIV back in the day. But now that it is 2023, you know, there's medications that will help you live a very normal life. Like, it isn't like a death sentence at this point. So, and I think it's going to be interesting as well to see how Martin deals with Zach having HIV, because he obviously did deal with Mark's HIV like 20, 30 years ago. So, I just thought it'd be interesting to drop that one. And also, I wouldn't mind having Brett hang about, mostly just because I like the actor and I'd like to see him in EastEnders. I'd like to see him like set up shop and him and Zach be mates. But
I would too.
I don't know if it's gonna happen. And I suppose this is the halfway point of the podcast. So once again, underrated character of the week. What are you reckon?
Oh, that is a hard question to ask. Underrated character. Freddie Slater. Either Freddie Slater or Amy. Is that her name?
Yes.
Amy
Amy.
Branningham wanted.
No, it's Amy Mitchell. It's Amy Mitchell.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know she was a Mitchell.
Well, back in the day, Jack and Ronnie Mitchell were a thing, but when Ronnie had pissed Roxy off, Roxy went and had a bunk up with Jack, and then they had a baby. And it's the only baby. Basically, somehow Jack managed to have a baby with both Roxy and Sam Mitchell. Well, I'm pretty sure Ronnie's baby was the baby that died, and they did that awful baby swapping storyline where Ronnie decided to steal Tommy Moon. Yeah, it happened. It had a lot of backlash at the time. Maybe one day we'll step into that one. Yeah. EastEnders is wild, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose my underrated character of the week. Oh god, I had exactly who it's Ricky. It's Ricky Butcher. Mostly because he had some good scenes. He had the funny fucking I'll just blame it on the sewers, and I'm like, Ricky, you dirty dog, what's wrong with you? You got some issues if it's that bad. And then I enjoyed the really poignant scene with Phil, where he was, actually on the same level and not just like the runt type deal. So, yeah. So what, our underrated characters of the week are, Ricky Butcher and...
Freddie Slater.
Yeah. Alright, as another episode goes by, Zach is still avoiding the needle in the room. Way. Sorry.
Way.
I had to. Whitney is trying to be supportive, egging him on to get the head chef job, but at this point, it feels like Zach's biggest battle is with himself and to not run away. Denise is grilling Jack because he spoiled her night, and she says the leak could have waited, and he kind of bluffs it off, honestly. He kind of doesn't really care. He goes, alright, let's spend the day together, and I kind of went, let's just wait and see if Jack just bailed or something, The day out isn't ending well. Denise says she doesn't want to become a normal couple. And because I've seen Denise and Jack's whole relationship, they are the most boring normal couple on the square. They don't really have any chemistry. It just feels like a marriage of convenience, I'll be honest. I don't know, do you actually find anything interesting about... Yeah, no, me neither. Are they actually married or are they just civil partners? No, civil partner. Okay. Oh, we don't want to become the normal couple. You are the boring couple. No one cares about you. Stacy is struggling with the bills whilst Zach is being badgered by Brett. Zach still refuses to believe that he could be HIV positive, and Sharon notices that something might be up. Amy and Denzel arrange a little hangout, but it looks like it looks like Nugget is about to steal some booze. Mostly because Suki went, "What? Why are you just eating shit without paying? You got to pay your way here, mate." Zach is still avoiding things, and he starts to implicate Brett in more drug-related issues. And apparently Brett didn't get the job, which makes me sad because I want to see more of him. The next bit is fairly good stuff because Stacy kind of delivers like an impassioned speech, saying about how they can't handle the bills going up, they can barely like pay for heating. It was just a very nice. It was a good way to kind of talk about the current like economic crisis, about the cost of living going up, and it was probably like the right people to go on about it, to say something like this, especially because the Slaters are just the poor people of the square. So I guess
Who is the richest on the square?
Phil, probably Jack. Ricky is supposedly doing pretty well. Who else is there? Dot. No, not Dot. Sonia's now the richest because she has all of Dot's estate, and Dot was left a fucking fortune by Dr. Leg. But yeah, Jack's like he's obviously a detective and he owns a bunch of properties. And Phil obviously has all his businesses, but yeah, honestly at this point I think Sonia is the richest on the square. Which is not what I expected to see. And Zach once again gets his second chance from Ravi, but kind of just is like, yeah, I got the job, let's celebrate. And they ask him questions and he just kind of blanks them properly. So Nugget did steal the vodka. And then I started to question, I'm like, does Nugget actually stay long enough and develop his character enough to make like the dumb Nugget name wholesome? Or does he just leave in a year and we're all just like, what was the point?
He leaves in a year.
Like, he's such a knob.
Is his real name Nugget or what's his real name?
Davinder. There we are. Ravi gets hassled by Suki, and they start to question his parenting because Ravi does act more like a friend than a dad. And Ricky, Nugget, and Denzel all drink the cheap vodka as Amy looks on disapprovingly. I also just kind of went, I don't know if I'm getting older, but this like little drinking session, it just looks depressing. Like, it looks terrible. To me, this stood out as like, this is the session 3 nights on the lash. Like, it's just nobody really wants to be there. Nobody's having fun, and it's just depressing. Amy gets vodka spilled on her and storms off, and is upset because she just wanted to spend some time to talk with Denzel, a boyfriend. But obviously he brought his mates along, and they spoiled the time together. Jay and Lola also agreed to get married in 2 weeks in an almost like second proposal. Like, they already proposed pretty nicely. He brought out the snow and everything. Now he's doing it again. Oh, Jay, you dog. Lola's dying in like Lola's dying in about 2 weeks, right? Like, I feel like Lola dies on like the honeymoon or something, because Eastenders do not do happy ever afters.
Is the character leaving the show? Is that why she's dying, or did they choose?
Nah. She's leaving. She will die. Yeah. So sorry if that was a spoiler, but yeah, she's dead. She's dying at some point. I mean, the cancer is terminal, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was on Valentine's Day. Because the way I see it happening, and I suppose this is slight spoiler territory, it's been reported that Lola's gonna try find her mum, and she finds her, and I think it's kind of like, obviously it's a nice little wholesome thing, but I think the mum still feels a lot of shame. But I do feel like Lola dies very shortly after they get married. That's my personal take. Maybe it goes on longer than that, but who knows? Ravi intercepts the party and dishes out some good advice. Before you have a party, lock the doors so you can clean up before the adults arrive. Yeah, that's some good advice, to be fair. But before this, Amy and Denzel are having a chat like she wanted to, and it implies that she's self-harming again. And Brett is back, and he and Zach nearly get into an argument. Zach continues, when they talk about the HIV, Zach's like, do I look ill though? I don't look ill. And then Brett's like, do I look ill? No, it's not that simple, mate. And then reminds him that he has to do it for his sake, the baby's sake, and for Whitney's sake. So slowly, we are getting there. Ravi lays down the law, reminding Nugget that he's not his mate and that he's his dad. And gives a funny little speech that I never expected, essentially saying, why are you lot drinking? There's so much more stuff to do now. What's the point? When we were drinking, that's because there was nothing else to do. But you guys are drinking. You got bloody games consoles. You got phones at your fingertips. Why are you drinking? But before this continues, Jack gets back and yells at everyone. Ricky got drunk. Amy didn't stop him. And then Jack goes, why would I even trust you to look after Ricky if you can't look after yourself? And it is true, but also it pretty much implies you're shit because you're self-harm, you can't look after yourself. And it's like, Jack, this is not what you say in this situation. Come on, man. Stop screaming at everyone, please. And it even gets worse because he yells at Denise. So, I mean, they did hang out and it did work, but also now Denise has been yelled at again and she's not happy. Lily, meanwhile, gets a bit of food for thought as Stacey and Jean kind of break down because they go, yeah, we can't afford another mouth. Like, we can't even really pay the rent, but, you know, they'll get through it. Comforts himself barely by drinking a lot of booze. He freaks out, pushes Whitney away, and Whitney obviously goes, yeah, well, I knew you were going to run away, you little bitch.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you said.
Word for word.
You're a bitch.
And Ravi and Nugget apologize to Suki and Nish. They're trying to make amends. But it nearly breaks it into an argument as Nish is like, huh, I guess it's a cycle, isn't it? And it's like, Nish, mate, he's your bastard kid who you didn't take care of for years. Why are you fucking questioning him on parenting?
I feel like stuff is gonna blow on Valentine's Day.
Oh, for sure. Denise interrupts and stands up for Ravi. And I just wrote, affair. Come on. We're going. And the final scene as Zach breaks down in the office, smashes up the desk, and some bottles of booze on it, and it cuts his hand and makes him think. Is this the breakthrough in him taking his possible HIV seriously? And for one final time this week, let's see what happened on Thursday's edition. The episode starts off frosty as Denise is still ignoring Jack, while Ravi enters and gives Denise a bottle of wine and some chocolate. He's still flirting, but honestly seems like Denise is not used to really having so much attention. Affair! Amy is also struggling because she lost control and she's been struggling with all the extra pressures. So she kind of tells Denzel, yeah, I have been harming again. So, and Denzel decides, all right, let's bunk off school. Let's talk about it. Let's at least try get a way through this. Meanwhile, Sharon is interrogating Zach, but Zach obviously kind of essentially goes, yeah, fuck off. Not talking to you, mate. Leave me alone. Harvey offers to spend the day with Jean as it is her 60th birthday. She says she's not celebrating, so he goes, yeah, I'll help you clean instead. And as Jean gets ready, Stacey tells Harvey that the rent has gone up. Denzel tries to comfort Amy fully by telling her that she's not alone and that all she needs to do is ask for help. Yeah, good advice for a teenager. Gotta appreciate that. Fair play. Denise and Amy have a bit of an argument, as Amy feels like she's in the way of Denise and Jack. And then this all blows off with Amy shouting that, yes, she's hurting herself again, which Jack hears as he storms in. She opens up saying that not just one thing has caused this, it's just everything. And it's quite a poignant scene, it's quite nice. And, you know, Jack and Amy hug at the end. But it kind of still pans to Denise, who's kind of sat there like, I feel like I'm left out, you know. And Harvey and Jean are eating lunch, and they're reeling at how kids today are going to manage. The one big line I thought of, or I remember, is just Jean essentially saying, I thought it was going to be easier nowadays, not harder. And, you know, they talk about, like, how it's changed. Like, you know, 30, 40 years ago, you could just buy a house. You know, you could easily buy a house. A house was like £5 at the time, you know? It's ridiculous. You know, you could, like, happily support a family. Like, it was just an interesting take on, like, you know, are me and you ever going to be able to buy a house? No, let's be honest.
No.
That's never happening.
Unless we come into lots of money.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just not viable at this point. But, you know, a bunch of grandparents are like, oh, yeah, I bought a house when I was working, you know, back in the day. And it's like, yeah, but now everybody owns all the houses. Like, it's not...
Oh, yeah, my nanny and granddad were telling me just last week about buying a house. But for them, they have a permanent house, but it's 6 foot under.
I just like how they're highlighting it because, you know, it's a pretty... I mean, we're currently heading towards a recession, you know. Money's about to be the tightest it's been for a long time. It's pretty important that they actually discuss these issues. So.
No, I think that happened on Tuesday's episode. Or Wednesdays.
Oh, well. What is the line of the week?
My other 2 lines of the week is Stacey Slater telling Freddie Slater that you're about as useful as a concrete parachute.
Yeah.
And Harvey going to Jean, I could move in with you, Jean, and help you with the rent. And then Jean goes, I only got a single bed.
Yeah.
That's what makes it more fun.
But yeah, essentially Harvey offers to move in, which Jean agrees. And yeah, they get that good line. And it kind of reminded me, Stacey and Jean get really good lines. Like one line I just think they remember. I'm like, my sexuality's like spaghetti meat, all straight till I get hot. Sharon asks about Zach, and he just refuses and insults her. And she's like, hey, if you want to talk. And once again, Zach's like, yeah, fuck off. You don't know me. You don't know me. And meanwhile, Jack lashes out at Denise again and is completely unreasonable. He even says, like, yeah, but they're not your kids, are they? And it's like, come on, Jack.
Come on, mate.
And, oh man, did somebody say affair?
Affair.
An uncomfortable meal at Walford East, and essentially they think Lola's dragged them there to say that she's dying. Like, everybody's sat there like, oh yeah, so how's everything going? Yeah. And then they're like, no, we're getting married in 2 weeks. And Whitney and Chelsea are once again discussing Zach, and they both know that he'd be a good dad, but Whitney kind of has to go, okay, you know, I need to like be prepared to be a single mum. And Denise is drowning her sorrows at the bar till Ravi joins her. Ooh. Come on! Affair! The Slaters surprise Jean with a little birthday celebration. She enjoys the fuss and announces that Harvey's moving in. But back to the steamy bar as Ravi flirts with Denise and just charms his way. Just like, yeah, we're the same age, aren't we? If I was with you, everything would have been better. You know, if I was your husband, I would have prioritized you all the way. And you can kind of see Denise essentially going, ooh, hello, Ravi. Because he's giving her all the attention that she wants from Jack right now. but their relationship is pretty dire. You know, it's just, I am the stepdad, I am the stepmom to your kids. Jack and Denise are pretty loveless at the minute, and kind of always have been. And we cut back to the restaurant as Billy now has full clarity. He's no longer worried about going to jail, but he is worried at the fact that Lola's probably going to die soon. But the nice bit to it is that Honey essentially goes, yeah, but look at her. She's having such a great time. You know, she is glowing. Zach, frustrated, smashes up his hand on the table and starts to bleed again. And quickly going, shh, I should really clean that up. And I think this may be the final step into Zach going, okay, it is time to get tested. Because if he doesn't, he's just putting people at risk. And Denise and Ravi drunkenly stumble back, but it all kind of goes tits up, and Ravi goes in for a kiss. And this felt like a very sobering thought, because Denise was off her face before, but the second this happened, she kind of rushes back like, shit. I could have easily gone in for that. And Jack welcomes her through the door, fully apologizes for how he's been treating her. They have a big hug, but it's not all as it seems. I was unsure whether Denise was like guilty because she'd nearly kissed Ravi, or she's just kind of stuck back in being the bloody step-parent and not really like loved. I don't know. I didn't really know how to take the final scene. It just looks like Denise is just unhappy. Alright, and that was week 2 of Watching Walford. All of the episodes from the 9th of the 1st, 2023 to the 12th. Did we think it was a good week of EastEnders?
It was an alright week, but I need to figure out who the Steve Blackman of EastEnders was.
Yeah.
I think, now I'm not too sure, but I think it goes to, give me a second to think.
I found my idea. I pieced it together now.
Who is it?
Keanu!
He's not even in the show.
Yeah. Yeah, but in general, he's so wooden, and he doesn't have charisma with anyone. But apparently everybody just still loves him regardless. He is the Steve Blackman.
We need to figure out this week's Steve Blackman.
It's always Keanu.
I'm gonna go. Let me think here.
I suppose once again, just to clarify, Steve Blackman was a wrestler in the Attitude Era of WWE or WWF, and he was essentially a tall, buff guy who waved around sticks. Was he like charismatic? No, not at all. But everybody loves him. Like, he has that like anti-charisma that kind of feels like charisma, but it's just not. He's fantastic.
Ricky Jr.
Yes, that works. Well, congratulations, Ricky Jr. on the Steve Blackman Award of the Week.
We'll find out next week who the Steve Blackman is next week.
I mean, if Keanu's in it will be Keanu.
Keanu!
But yeah, I mean, I think I've mostly... One thing that's been interesting, because obviously, like I said, I've been watching 2015 Hollyoaks, and there's also about to be a child pregnancy story, well, a teen pregnancy storyline there as well. Except the difference is, it's a person called Perry, and she's 15, not 12. And we also went through the HIV storyline with Steve as well, which is, still interesting enough. And yeah, get to see Ziggy Ross. I've just managed to break the bloody matrix, and I'm broken into the mainframe. I'm seeing everything at the same time. How's that timing worked?
I don't know.
They haven't done bloody HIV for 30 years, and now I'm seeing it twice in 2 separate places. No, I think it was a solid week of episodes, really. I think it was a bit of a let-off. Like, I don't think as much happen this week as it did last week. But obviously, it's the second week of the year, so, you know, New Year is going to be a packed week. Christmas is going to be a packed week. Second week of January, probably not going to be a very packed week, is it? I suppose the main takeaways are potential Ravi and Denise. That's fun. I'll take it. I'll take it. If we can get any way out of the awful Jack and Denise relationship, I'm happy. It was also nice to see Phil actually comfort Tommy and prove that he is actually trying to be a good dad to him. But there were obviously the frustrating parts with fucking Zach just refusing to believe. Which it's understandable that he's not going to believe that he has HIV, but it is pretty selfish to just act like it's not a thing. And the continued frustration of the Lily stuff. I just, obviously we need to get through it. But the main issue is I'm so used to binging soaps at this point that just watching like a week at a time is kind of like nothing to me. But because I need to like take notes and like keep informed and pretty much like have it all planned out, it feels like it's moving at such a slower pace and it's slightly infuriating. I'm having a great time because it's giving me a reason to stay very up to date with it. But I'm also definitely like running behind on the other soaps. This has been episode 2 of Watching Walford. If you did enjoy the podcast, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, notifications up the channel. What else did the people do?
I think that.
Comment as well. Comment helps the lovely algorithm. Who was your underrated character of the week? Who is your Steve Blackman of this week? And obviously stick around the channel. There'll likely be a couple more videos coming out vaguely soonish, where it may mostly just be me reacting to other things that happen in the soap world. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week on Watching Walford. Bye-bye.
Bye.